Greetings, everybody. I want to introduce my old friend Curtis Moore, who's a Senior Vice President of Energy Fuels. And Energy Fuels is listed in the U.S. under the easy symbol to remember. You got four U's in a row, and EFR in Canada, for those of you who are in Canada. But we're going to talk more about the U.S. application of the company right now in one of our several conversations leading up to Better in Our Backyards Mining and Energy Expo. As you see here, it will be held the 29th of September through the 2nd of October in the Twin Cities. We're very excited. We had a packed house last year, increased the capacity meaningfully for 2026, and a lot of that's already sold out. So it's something that you really want to have on your radar. If you're a major investor, if you're in the mining or energy industry yourself, it's a place to go and see things and to be seen. And Curtis, thank you, first of all, for being a part of this year's show.
Oh, my pleasure, Chris, and great to chat with you.
Well, when you and I first met, I don't know if we either one of us wants to count how many years that's been. As I've quipped before, nuclear energy was really in the doghouse because of the Fukushima tragedy in Japan. Hard to believe it's been 15 years now since that
Wow.
happened. Rare earths were something that not even investors ever heard of. I mean, you mentioned rare earth to somebody, it's like you just found some urn with some funny looking dirt you took at the Antiques Roadshow on PBS to learn what it was. But now we all know what rare earths are as well, because that's one of the many critical minerals and products thereof that we're scrambling as a country to start to get control of again. So first of all, I want to give people a quick snapshot of Energy Fuels that aren't familiar with the company. When you and I first met, of course, Energy Fuels was almost entirely a uranium-based company, a uranium-centric company, with some a little bit of vanadium production as well from time to time. And you're doing pretty well now that we've had a resurgence in the U.S. with uranium. You just announced, in fact, in the middle of June or so, that you've already met your full year guidance for uranium production. So that's pretty nice.
It is. It is. Yeah. I mean, we're still primarily a uranium producer. We're the largest producer of uranium in the United States by a pretty wide margin. Yeah, no, it's. I think we're one of the few companies out there that's actually meeting or maybe even exceeding expectations on the uranium front. And so, we'll be talking a lot about rare earths, I think here, but
We
but
will.
we're always I think going to be the leading producer of uranium in the United States. But we're also building a big rare earth business right on top of that. There's two ways to produce uranium. There's in situ recovery and conventional. We have in situ recovery in our portfolio, but we
Yeah.
tend to focus on conventional. There's positives, and pluses and minuses to both of those methods. But one of the big pluses to conventional mining is certainty. You pretty much know what you're going to get. And so when you mine a ton of rock and you take it to our mill, which again is the only conventional uranium mill in the United States, you know what you're going to get. There's a little bit more uncertainty with a little more kind of art and science when it comes to ISR, and it's tough, right? So, but we got, I don't want to say we got lucky, but we have a very good mine in our portfolio, the Pinyon Plain mine in
Yeah.
Arizona, which is turning out to be larger, higher grade, and lower cost than we thought. I mean, that doesn't happen very often in mining.
Oh,
So, well, we're actually mining uranium out of Pinyon Plain for $23 a pound right now. That's
wow.
mining, milling, and transport costs, which I mean, in a $85 and $90 market, that's a pretty healthy margin we're getting. I wish
So,
it were bigger. It's not going to last forever,
yeah.
but we still got a few good years left out of that mine.
Well, that's good. And you can't beat those numbers with a stick. And of course, that's helping the overall story for Energy Fuels, which, and I'll pick up where you mentioned this a minute
Mhm.
ago, Curtis, is that you guys made the decision a while back to get into the rare earths supply chain. And we don't have nearly enough time to talk about this here. People who come to the expo, of course, are going to learn a lot more. People who follow me in a national investor are already learning a lot more. But you guys have been building a pretty impressive vertically integrated rare earths powerhouse, starting really with the anchor of the White Mesa Mill, which you can repurpose and are repurposing into producing some of the downstream things as well.
Yep.
And that's a big deal. And maybe explain this real quick for folks about how rare earths are plentiful, but the ability to produce the products is not.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have my three rules about rare earths. Number one is that they're not rare.
Right.
And so, but what is rare is the ability to mine them and process them into downstream products economically. And so, yeah, back, I don't know, probably around the time I first met you, Chris, we were, the price of uranium was 25 bucks a pound. We got this amazing facility in Utah. We're trying to figure out how do we use that capacity. And rare earths was one of the ones that really rose to the top. And my second rule that everybody needs to know about rare earths is that every rare earth mineral is naturally radioactive when you mine it. There's natural concentrations of uranium, thorium, other radionuclides in those ores. You have to be able to deal with it. Well, what better place to do that than a uranium mill? So
Well,
yeah, so we
sure.
started getting into that, and we realized that we can do the processing. That's one of the big gaps in the supply chain in the United States is rare earth processing. We can do that at the mill. We've already installed commercial capacity for light rare earths. We just last week announced we're going to have capacity installed for the heavy rare earths, which is really where the game is. You'll see export restrictions, around placed on these heavy rare earths just because they are so strategic.
Yeah.
And we've also announced a couple of big acquisitions that will give us that full vertical integration. We will be, I think, the first company to actually achieve commercial viability of a true mine to magnet rare earth supply chain. You hear a lot of other companies out there talking about it, but we're on the verge of actually getting it done and producing commercial quantities of these rare earth magnets that we need for automotive, defense, robots, AI infrastructure, a whole host of applications. I think we'll be the first to the table.
Yeah, well, and for some, if not all of those reasons, you of course have been under the watchful eye of the federal government for a while, and you recently signed a term sheet with the is it Office of Strategic Capital is what the specific
Yes.
arm of the government is concerned for $725 million, which
Mhm.
most of which will be to continue to expand White Mesa to
Yep.
add this downstream capacity for heavy rare earth magnets and the like.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
then also some of that will be for potentially another plant based on an acquisition that you're working on right now of one of the leading companies, I should say, in the world, VAC. You
Yep.
announced that back in June. That's almost a $2 billion deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a game changer. I think that people need to really wrap their heads around this manufacturing of permanent rare earth magnets is it is a highly specialized advanced manufacturing kind of a role. Magnets are not a commodity.
Oh,
If you have a magnet that you need for, I don't know, a hybrid vehicle from Mercedes or a EV from Hyundai or a robot made by, Tesla or somebody else, those are all totally different, different shapes, different specs, different performance characteristics, and that sort of thing. You have to work with that specific manufacturer to get the magnets that they need for their end use applications. So, um, and VOC has that. VOC has been making these permanent rare earth magnets for 40 years. They have over 1,000 existing customers. They only count somebody as a customer if they've actually done business with them in the last year.
hmm.
They have the only well, there's some other smaller ones. Let's say by far the largest permanent rare earth manufacturing facility in the United States that they just built in South Carolina.
Yeah.
They have another facility very similar in Hanau, Germany, and another one in Finland. So they are really there's four companies outside of China right now that are making permanent rare earth magnets. Three are in Japan, Shinetsu, Proterial, and TDK. They also are really sort of just captive to Japanese markets. There's not a lot of excess capacity that those companies have outside of Japan. And then there's only Vacuum Schmelz.
Yeah.
That's the only other company out there that has this capacity. There's other companies that are talking about doing it. They're trying to develop that capacity internally, kind of organically. But man, I mean, we wish them well because we need more of this stuff. But man, it's gonna be a long road ahead for them to reach the level of VOC.
Well, and for the investment case, again, on energy fuels, folks who already get the national investor know that I followed you guys for a long time, happily was pounding the table on your stock when there was a zero to the left of the decimal point. And we were as high as what, around $30 in recent years. Now you're 12 or 13 after this
Yeah.
recent correction of all these different kind of stocks, but still a powerhouse in the making.
Mhm.
And kudos to you and Ross Bapu, and who's now the CEO, and others for that. Bringing us home, and folks, I'm going to have a link, among other things, to Energy Fuels website along with this video. So make sure you visit them, get to know more about the company. It's a great opportunity, that again, I cover in the National Investor. But for the more immediate purposes of the expo coming up, better in our backyard, just as the name implies, means that we need to regain control of our own destiny and our own industries. What people realized the hard way in the recent past, it wasn't just Christmas toys and T-shirts and sneakers and doodads we outsourced to cheap labor in other countries. It was a lot of other stuff that we need every day, and now we've got this kind of a crash course to try and recover these things. And you're a major part of that, and uniquely, Curtis, and I think this is great as far as Energy Fuels story is concerned. Even with a lot of the mining that does happen in the US, which for just about everything is still not nearly enough, processing happens in other countries.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, when you're talking
Yours,
about the, yeah, oh, good. Yeah, when
yeah,
you're
no,
talking,
and yours is one of the only stories that's gelling right now,
yeah.
where it's almost the opposite. I mean, because you're actually importing some of the raw materials for magnets from other strategic acquisitions you've made in a few
Yep.
other countries that are all friendly countries, thankfully, to our cause and to the U.S. They're allies. And now you're going to be processing a lot of that stuff. In fact, you already are in some ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really, I don't, again, I don't want to minimize it, but digging rocks out of the ground is kind of the easy part of the rare earth
Right.
supply chain, right?
Well,
Um,
especially rare
I,
earths.
yeah, especially rare earths. And the U.S. has pretty good deposits of rare earths, but not great deposits of rare
Yeah.
earths. Unfortunately, the U.S. is a little deficient on the heavy rare earth oxides. Yeah, yeah, of course, we have them here, but they're because they're such low concentrations in most of the deposits. They're very, very hard and expensive to actually extract economically. And so, we've announced to the world we're planning to do a final investment decision on a project that we have in Australia. Again, that's one of our closest allies, and this project is very enriched in the heavy rare earth oxides. It's got both the lights and the heavies. And for your viewers that don't know, rare earths are categorized as light rare earths and heavy rare earths based on their atomic weight. And kind
Okay.
of the main light rare earths are NdPr, that's neodymium and praseodymium, and the main heavy rare earths are terbium and dysprosium. And those are all used in these magnets that have, they're used in a lot of automotive applications, robots, both manufacturing humanoid robots, certain energy infrastructure. Shoot, even hard drives. They're going
Right.
into these AI data centers and all that, and of course, important defense applications as well. So yeah, so we're getting the processing, the separations done. We're going to be hopefully building this rare earth metallization and alloying plant in the United States through this acquisition. They already have one operating in South Korea, another close ally. But we're looking to duplicate that facility here in the United States, which is really a big pinch point. I mean, the entire rare earth supply chain is a pinch point, but within
Yeah.
that supply chain, metallization and alloying is a particular pinch point. And then we're acquiring VOC, which already has a plant in South Carolina, and that plant already has the capacity to produce 2,000 metric tons of magnets per year,
Wow.
but it's expandable to 12,000 metric tons of magnets per year, which would that would supply most if not all of the needs that the United States has here in the
Holy cow.
near future. So, yep.
That's pretty cool. And provided that deal closes as contemplated, part of this loan from the federal government is going to be to do just that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The loan is to help us expand our processing and separation at the White Mesa Mill to help build out that metal and alloy plant, to do this heavy rare earth circuit that we announced. It's all to help support that. Yes.
Great stuff. Well, folks, needless to say, this is a story. If you weren't familiar with it already, you need to become more familiar. So visit Energy Fuels website, get to know the company, follow Curtis, follow yours truly. I'll have again a couple of links along with this video. And if it's in any way possible, make sure that you come to the Better in Our Backyard Mining and Energy Expo this fall. It's going to be a great, we have federal and state elected officials, regulators, Defense Department, Interior Department, Energy Department, tribal government officials, lots of people in engineering and industry, mining, energy. It's the place right now. It's the nerve center to try and push the ball farther down the field as we seek to take back control of our destiny as a country with all of these different industries. So, Curtis, thanks for your time today and letting folks know. Thanks again for your support of Better in Our Backyard. I look forward to seeing you this fall.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
Take care.